Selam Bakhtiar Sanov and you are watching A News Now. Let's take a look at today's top stories. 2 people have been wounded after the Israeli military struck a main road in Lebanon's capital Beirut, targeting Hezbollah. Officials from the United States, Ukraine and Europe meet in Geneva to discuss Trump's proposal for ending the war. And COP30 wrapped up in Brazil with a deal that expands climate funding but avoids naming fossil fuels. Israel carried out an airstrike on Beirut's southern suburbs. The military said it targeted a Hezbollah operative in Dahiyeh. The blast hit a main road where residents reported hearing warplanes just before the explosion, prompting people to flee buildings, fearing additional strikes. Medical sources said Reuters at least 24 people were wounded and taken to nearby hospitals, while authorities have not commented yet. The attack marks another breach of the United States-backed ceasefire agreed a year ago. In recent weeks, Israel has stepped up strikes in southern Lebanon, saying the near-daily attacks are meant to stop Hezbollah from rebuilding positions along the border. Speaking ahead of the strike, Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel would continue to target what it calls terrorist threats across several fronts.
We continue to strike terrorism on several fronts. Over this weekend, the IDF struck in Lebanon, and we will continue to do whatever is necessary to prevent Hezbollah from re-establishing its ability to threaten us. This is what we're doing in the Gaza Strip as well. Since the ceasefire, Hamas has not stopped breaching it, and we operate accordingly.
Israel has launched a new round of airstrikes in Gaza, the latest test of the ceasefire that went into effect on October the 10th. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office says the strikes targeted Hamas militants, killing 5 senior members. But Gaza health officials report a much higher toll, at least 24 dead and 54 wounded, many of them children. Israel says the strikes were a response to gunfire on its troops. Earlier this week, another 33 Palestinians were killed in a 12-hour period, mostly women and children. The escalation comes just days after the United Nations Security Council approved a US-led plan for Gaza, including an international security force, a Trump-overseen transitional authority, and a possible path toward Palestinian statehood. National security advisors from France, Britain and Germany are meeting with officials from the United States, Ukraine, the European Union and Italy in Geneva to discuss Washington's proposed peace plan for Ukraine. The high-level talks aim to negotiate a path toward ending the 4-year war, with Kiev and Washington at the center of the discussions.
Top officials from the US, Ukraine and European allies are meeting in Geneva Sunday for high-stakes talks aimed at ending Russia's war in Ukraine, now in its 4th year. US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Secretary of State Marco Rubio arrived in Geneva, joined by US Army Secretary Daniel Driscoll. Ukraine confirmed its delegation, while national security advisors from France, Britain, Germany, the E3 alliance, along with EU and Italian officials, are also participating. On the sidelines of the G20 summit, French President Emmanuel Macron stressed the need for a durable peace.
Ukraine, the US, and the Europeans want peace, but we want a robust and long-standing peace. I think it's very good that the US proposed something to go to a ceasefire and peace, and we have to commend these efforts. But at the same time, as what is at stake is obviously Ukrainian sovereignty and European security, it's normal to have both the Ukrainians and the Europeans on the table to finalize this plan.
European leaders underscored the importance of being included. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz warned that Ukraine's fate could affect the entire continent, while British Prime Minister Keir Starmer called Geneva the focal point for progress.
Right, perfect. It is important to keep firmly in mind what we're all trying to achieve, which is a just and lasting peace, but also underpinning that is the principle that I've always adhered to, that all matters about Ukraine must be determined in the end by Ukraine, and that's why we're talking very regularly with the Ukrainians.
US President Donald Trump said his current proposal for peace in Ukraine to end Russia's war is not his final offer, with his comment coming as Ukraine and Washington's European allies say the peace plan can be a basis for talks, but needs additional work. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed willingness for constructive, honest, and prompt work with Washington, but warned the plan could threaten Ukraine's dignity and sovereignty. Russian President Vladimir Putin described the US plan as a possible path to resolution, but may reject proposals requiring Russian forces to withdraw from occupied areas. The discussions follow President Donald Trump's 28-point peace plan, which calls on Ukraine to cede territory, limit its military, and renounce NATO ambitions. Kyiv has until Thursday to respond.
Meanwhile, air traffic in the Dutch city of Eindhoven was suspended for several hours after drones were seen near the airport. The defense minister said counter-drone measures were activated as flights diverted or stayed out of the zone. The military had fired drones near the Walkel air base the previous night. Officials haven't identified the source of the drones. Flights resumed about 2 hours after the shutdown. Eindhoven serves as both a civilian and military airport. Major airlines have suspended flights to and from Venezuela following a U.S. safety warning. The moves come as Washington escalates pressure on President Nicolas Maduro's government.
3 international carriers cancelled flights from Caracas on Saturday after the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration warned of potentially hazardous airspace. Brazil's GOL, Colombia's Avianca and Portugal's TAP Air halted departures, while Spain's Iberia suspended flights from Monday until further notice. The FAA cited worsening security and increased military activity. The cancellations follow a major U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean, including the aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford, 8 other warships, a nuclear submarine, and F-35 aircraft. U.S. officials said covert operations against Maduro could be the first phase of new action, while Washington will designate the Cartel de los Soles, a foreign terrorist organization, on Monday for drug trafficking. U.S. President Trump has pledged to use every element of American power against drug flows, while Maduro insists any attempt to oust him would fail and calls for diplomatic talks. Since September, U.S. forces have struck at least 21 suspected drug vessels, mostly in the Caribbean, killing at least 83 people. Human rights groups have criticized the strikes as extrajudicial killings. The situation has left airlines, travelers, and governments navigating a high-stakes environment amid growing regional tensions.
Now the G20 summit has wrapped up, but South Africa is marking a historic moment as the first African nation to host the event. Delivering diplomacy, tension and symbolic power plays, Africa's first G20 presidency on the global stage navigated climate urgency, geopolitical friction and competing visions for the world's future. President Cyril Ramaphosa celebrated the swift adoption of the 122-point Leaders' Declaration focused on multilateralism, climate action, debt relief, energy transition and fair access to critical minerals. The United States refused to participate and had earlier warned it would not accept any consensus without its approval. Now, with the United States set to assume the G20 presidency next, a dispute over diplomatic protocol continues. South Africa says the handover will go ahead.
This G20 Leaders Summit.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa formally closed the G20 summit in Johannesburg on Sunday, the first on the African continent. The United States take over the rotating G20 presidency after the Johannesburg summit, but South Africa rejected a U.S. proposal to send an embassy official for the handover in Trump's place. Oli Barrett has more details from Johannesburg.
Well, Cyril Ramaphosa, the South African president, concluded this summit saying that the deliverables in the Leaders' Declaration are more than words. He says there will be greater cooperation on climate change, on disaster relief, on artificial intelligence, on debt sustainability for developing economies and much more. In that Leaders' Declaration, also an agreement from the countries here to pursue peace in various different conflicts in the world. There have been a series of discussions at this summit around the conflict in Ukraine, for example, in particular. The Americans were not here. They boycotted it because of strained ties between the US and South Africa at that moment, and that meant that Cyril Ramaphosa, in concluding the summit here, banged the gavel but wasn't able to hand it over in the way that would have been expected to the incoming hosts, the United States of America. That will happen at a lower diplomatic level in the days ahead. The United States has criticized the declaration that was agreed by leaders who came to the G20, and many of those attending countries here in Johannesburg have praised South Africa for what they say is a successful summit. That will be something that is very much disputed by the United States as it takes over the G20 presidency for next year. Ollie Barrett for A News in Johannesburg.
Heavy floods have killed at least 90 people and left 12 missing in central Vietnam this week. Dak Lak province recorded the highest death toll. Flooding damaged over 1,000 homes and blocked key roads. Many households were left without electricity. Emergency aid has been allocated to support recovery. Military and police were deployed to help with rescue and relief efforts. Authorities said tens of thousands of people were evacuated and crops and infrastructure suffered severe damage. And it's not only in Vietnam. Tropical cyclones, heavy rains, snowfalls and volcanic eruptions are affecting countries across the globe, from Australia and the United States to Europe. Let's take a look.
A tropical cyclone packing destructive winds swept across Australia's Northern Territory, striking Darwin with gusts reaching 205 kilometres per hour. The Category 3 system, named Cyclone Fina, damaged homes, downed trees and left several roads submerged, according to the Bureau of Meteorology. Around 19,000 residents lost electricity as power lines were brought down.
Heavy rain, very strong wind, and like you can hear like the window shaking, like a strong wind and like a wizard, like the rain coming inside the windows. We couldn't open the windows, so yeah, it was a bit scary for me.
Elsewhere in Thailand, heavy rain triggered flooding across Hat Yai district in the southern province of Songkhla. Local authorities declared a severe flood emergency, issuing a red flag evacuation order for 103 communities. Flooded homes and streets forced residents to wade through knee-high water as they made their way to safety. Over in France, a quick spell of snow disrupted traffic on the A13 motorway running through the Paris suburbs. The sudden wintry burst left visibility low and the road surface slick, prompting authorities to urge drivers to take extra care. Where in Hawaii, Kilauea volcano erupted again over the weekend, sending lava flowing from its vent. The USGS Hawaiian Volcano Observatory said another fountaining event is likely in the coming days. The volcano, located in a closed section of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, has been erupting intermittently since December last year.
This week saw the end of the COP30. The climate summit wrapped up in Brazil with a deal that expands climate funding but avoids naming fossil fuels. The outcome reveals deep divisions after 2 tense weeks in Belém.
2025
COP30 ended with a compromise agreement that increases support for vulnerable nations facing rising climate impacts. Brazil pushed the deal through, aiming to show unity despite the absence of a US delegation. The talks ran past their deadline as countries clashed over fossil fuels issue. Several countries criticised the pact for leaving out stronger measures on greenhouse gases.
So when the decision has been made, lots and lots of countries getting up to say that they are deeply dissatisfied with it. Indeed, some of them saying it's illegitimate, that the global goal on adaptation is incoherent, that the mitigation work plan didn't have any kind of mention of fossil fuels. So there's a lot of, I would say, disappointment, even anger at the outcome. But it has been agreed, and in the end, the Brazilians and those countries that wanted this outcome will feel satisfied by that.
Colombia, Panama and Uruguay objected to the process, saying the negotiations sidelined science and procedure.
We spent weeks being paralyzed over procedural issues, and now in this plenary, the process is not being followed. Panama truly wanted to support you, Mr. President, and your presidency. I know you have done a lot of efforts to keep this process together. We commend that, but we cannot replace due process.
8.
After a brief suspension, the Brazilian presidency confirmed the deal would stand. The EU, which had backed stronger wording, eventually stepped aside to avoid a breakdown. The agreement calls for wealthy nations to at least triple adaptation funding by 2035. It also launches a voluntary initiative to accelerate climate action and help countries meet existing emissions pledges. Developing states warn the measures are not enough to address rising seas, extreme heat and storms. COP30 also launched a review process for international trade rules, aiming to ensure trade policies support clean technology and climate action. Delegates said rising trade barriers could slow the adoption of low-carbon technologies if not addressed. Turkey will host the COP31 climate summit in 2026, with Australia leading the negotiation process.
Global attention turned to the Amazon, often called the lungs of the earth. The fate of the Amazon River is inseparably linked to the destiny of the Amazon basin itself. This river system draws its lifeline from the vast hydrological resources of the surrounding forest. Orkan Amashov has more on that.
The fate of the Amazon River is inextricably connected with the destiny of the Amazon basin. Well, the river system draws its lifeline from the vast hydrological resources of the basin. Well, over the past couple of years, we have noticed a massive decline, of course, in the forest landmass within this area. And of course, naturally, deforestation, particularly intensified as a result of illegal mining and also illegal logging, has given rise to decline in rainfall. And rainfall decline effectively means that the water shrinkage will be taken for granted. Naturally, everything connected with each other. Well, over the past 10 years, there has been a 14% decline in biodiversity in this area. It is connected with deforestation. Although we know for sure that the rates of deforestation have declined over the past 5-10 years, what is also very certain to everybody, including ourselves, that if more than 25% of the Amazon basin is lost, this area's ability to sustain itself and to replenish itself will be lost. And then implications will be tedious to contemplate, not in the context of this basin, but also the entire river system of this region and that of the entire world.
Now let's take a closer look at the key stories shaping the region. During high-level talks in Dushanbe, Tajikistan and China reaffirmed their rapidly expanding partnership as President Emomali Rahmon met with China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Tajikistan's leader noted that bilateral ties have strengthened quickly, with China now serving as Dushanbe's largest trading partner and main source of investment. Wang Yi explained that China's high-quality development will create new opportunities for Tajikistan and emphasized Beijing's readiness to enhance coordination within the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the China Central Asia Mechanism. Uzbekistan is strengthening its building materials sector through a new localization program that aims to boost domestic production and improve product quality. The move is linked to Uzbekistan's ongoing efforts on World Trade Organization accession. Our Sevil Rajapova has more on that.
Uzbekistan has announced a new energy efficiency program intended to cut national electricity consumption and meet requirements under its ongoing WTO accession. The plan introduces 166 new international standards for the construction and industrial sectors, with the share of energy efficient and environmentally friendly materials expected to reach 25% by 2026 and 35% by 2030. Energy audits at 34 major enterprises have already been completed, and digital monitoring and artificial intelligence systems are expected to reduce production costs by 5 to 10% in participating factories. As part of improving quality and safety in related sectors, 4 scientific projects are being undertaken with the Tashkent Chemical Technological Institute, engaging researchers from Germany, Korea and Turkey. From next year, the government will allocate about $2.52 million to fund scientific and technological research in building materials production, supporting laboratories, certification systems and pilot production lines. Implementation will start in 2026, with LED lighting conversion in public institutions and expanded installation of smart meters for households and businesses. A public awareness campaign on energy use will also be launched next year, and the government has allocated nearly $8.4 million to support digitalization and efficiency upgrades in key sectors. Uzbekistan says the reforms will modernize energy management, reduce system losses, and move the country closer to global regulatory frameworks as part of its WTO accession. It is Sivil Rajapova reporting from Tashkent, Uzbekistan, A News.
Turkey continues to solidify its position as a major player in global agriculture. In Izmir, one of Turkey's important agricultural centers, mandarin producers were delighted with high yields.
Izmir is not only one of Turkey's major cities, it is also one of the world's key centers for mandarin production. The region is specially known for its Satsuma mandarins, considered among the highest quality varieties globally. Turkey's Izmir ranks second in Satsuma mandarin production, with an average annual crop of 150,000 tons on approximately 46,000 hectares. They are grown mostly in the coastal districts of Seferihisar, Menderes and Selçuk. With its aroma and thin skin, Satsumas are popular both in the domestic market and export markets. Harvesting begins in October and continues until December, providing significant income for local farmers. Now, in November, the season is at its peak.
We're currently in the harvesting process. We view the harvest as a wedding. Workers are gathering tangerines throughout the garden, crate them, sort them, and then ship them to export or the domestic market. This year, our yield will be in the 165,000-ton range. Our producers experienced low yields last year. This year, they are satisfied.
As the peak season continues, the Satsuma mandarin stands out as Izmir's signature harvest and its most reliable source of income.
Now a new international singing competition has crowned its winner. The grand finale marked the climax of a 10-episode musical marathon watched by millions across Kazakhstan and beyond, bringing together performers from 12 countries, showcasing the richness of Asia's cultural and vocal traditions.
Silkwe Star жобасының жеңімпазы Mongolia Michelle Joseph!
A new star has emerged on the Asian music scene. Mongolian singer Michelle Joseph has won the inaugural Silkway Star International Vocal Competition, held in Kazakhstan's capital. The live finale was broadcast on Jibek Jolly in Kazakhstan, with simultaneous broadcasts in Azerbaijan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Mongolia, reaching millions of viewers worldwide. 7 finalists from Armenia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, China, Malaysia, Mongolia, and Uzbekistan performed in their native languages, presenting original compositions and visually stunning stage productions. The show featured tailor-made costumes and creative staging designed by Kazakh stylist teams. The winner was awarded on stage by Wang Delu, head of the Eurasian Bureau at China Media Group, and Raushan Kajibayeva, CEO of the Presidential Broadcasting Corporation of Kazakhstan. The winner was determined by a 50-50 combination of professional jury scores and online audience votes. Over 500,000 viewers from 43 countries participated, highlighting the competition's wide international appeal. Silkway Star has set a new benchmark for Asian music competitions, combining cultural exchange, world-class performance, and a celebration of Asia's diverse musical talent.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned to A News for more.